I've been helping some ultra high net worth individuals recently who have sold their businesses and built up a lot of liquidity in the form of simple cash in the bank or cash in a brokerage account. And they're looking to deploy that cash overseas, not only for asset protection or higher returns, but they're thinking maybe I can get a residence permit or a second citizenship just from putting that cash to work for me somewhere else. But not everyone is interested in buying real estate or investing in government bonds or starting a business overseas, which are many of the ways which allow you to get a residence permit or citizenship. So today I'm going to share with you some countries where just by moving your money to their country's banks, you can get residence and even citizenship. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where they're treated best: offshore tax savings, asset protection overseas, second passports to make sure you have options, and investments in new boom markets. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. Got a lot of free articles on there too that you can read. And today we're going to talk about how simply moving your money from a bank in your current country, wherever it is now, whether it's in ANZ or Chase or TD or wherever it may be, earning probably zero interest or even negative interest, you can move that overseas, put it in another bank, keep your liquidity, and actually get immigration privileges in another country. So let's start in the Americas. One of the easiest countries for Westerners, if you're fortunate enough to have one of about 50 different citizenships, is Panama's Friendly Nations visa program. If you've been looking around the internet, you've probably heard about this. It is not a very clear path to second citizenship, in my opinion, as we sit here today. But it is a path to get permanent residence if you are a Western or European citizen. You can go and put $5,000 in the bank, set up one other pretty easy economic tie in the country, and get permanent residence. It's a pretty tax-friendly country if you actually want to go and live there. Otherwise, just a nice place to have in your back pocket by putting a pretty nominal amount of money in the bank. The next option is in Ecuador, where for just over 40 grand in the bank, you can also get a residence permit and you can work towards permanent residence. And if you'd like to live there, you can work towards citizenship. Ecuador, many people don't know, uses the US dollar as its official currency. And so you can put money in the bank in US dollars. You'll earn a higher interest rate than you would in a place like the United States. And it certainly has become a haven for retirees. You can find cheap real estate there. It is a place that is an up-and-coming place to live very cheaply, and not a bad place to go in terms of just having a plan B. Pretty peaceful country, pretty small country. People don't really get, they don't get on anyone's bad side. So not a bad place to go just by parking some money in the bank at a relatively decent interest rate. You might want to check the credit unions, by the way, for the highest interest rates. Now in Colombia, you can actually get residence, at least for a while, by putting money in the bank. They have a couple different residence programs in Colombia, and it seems they're always talking about changing them, changing the requirements. I found the easiest option is simply buying real estate there and getting a permanent residence permit. But if you want to put in less money, you can potentially put in as little as about $20,000 into a business. Now you've got to set up a business, and you've got to go through contributing capital to that business. So if you're a U.S. citizen, that's going to involve more paperwork than just the bank account. And eventually they may come around to asking why you're not spending your money in the business, but it's a path to put money into a company and get residence in Colombia. Again, if you're not going to live there, that path is less likely to lead to citizenship than by investing more, such as in a property, but not a bad way to get yourself into Colombia. Also in the Americas, Costa Rica. While you can simply prove income to Costa Rica as an alternative to showing statements from, for example, a pension or some other kind of passive income, you can simply deposit 2 years' worth of the required income into a bank. So it's about $60,000. That will allow you to go down and live in Costa Rica, get a residence permit. And again, if you want to live there for half the year, you can work your way towards citizenship in a pretty peaceful, beautiful country. Let's go to Europe, where many countries over the years have opened up golden visa programs where investors can do things like buy properties to get a residence permit. Some of these golden visas don't really require you to spend much time in the country in order to become a citizen, while others do. One of the ones that has promoted their bank deposit, or what they call subordinate debt requirement, is Latvia. You can put 280,000 euros into a bank. Now, it's not exactly a bank deposit. It is a debt obligation with the bank that may turn some people off. But you can make that investment along with a 25,000 euro fee to the government, and you've got yourself a 5-year residence permit. It's not going to lead to citizenship unless you actually live there. Citizenship takes 10 years, not the best thing for someone who wants to become a European citizen. However, not the worst way if you just want to keep your money in something nice and simple at a relatively low price as far as golden visas go. No screwing around with real estate or investment funds. That's an option that you might want to look at. They do certainly have, in addition to local Latvian banks, they have some of the larger European banks that are also there as well. Portugal and Spain both have golden visa programs, and people generally look at the obligation to, or the opportunity to buy real estate, but they each have an option to put money as a capital investment. 1 million euros is a capital investment. So if you want to tie your money up, you can put that into the bank and you can get yourself a golden visa. Obviously, there are cheaper options with real estate and with investment funds, or in the case of Portugal, we've talked about hiring people there. But if you've got liquidity, you can simply move it from one bank earning 0% to another bank earning 0% and get yourself a golden visa, work your way towards citizenship in the case of Portugal. One country where you can get instant citizenship on the edge of Europe is Turkey. Again, people talk, and we've talked for a couple of years now, about the $250,000 real estate investment option. And I think that one's interesting because unlike Caribbean citizenship programs, you can choose, relatively speaking, on the open market. Sadifa, who runs our real estate department, and who speaks Turkish, is always looking at properties there. You're probably not going to get the absolute cheapest properties because of the way the law is written, but you can get some pretty good deals buying in Istanbul. However, what people don't realize is if you don't want to buy real estate, you can simply put $500,000 in the bank, and you can generally split it up across different banks. They've got some decent banks there. Again, they've got some international banks in Turkey. You leave that money in there for 3 years, and you've got yourself a citizenship. Not after 3 years, but you get the citizenship now, and they just restrict you from taking that money out. Egypt also has a citizenship by investment program, probably not one most Westerners are going to consider, and not one that's really very favorably priced. I don't know that they really consider the global market conditions, but depending on how long you're willing to tie up your capital, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, you can put anywhere from $750 up to $1 million in an Egyptian bank. You can't earn any interest, which is unfortunate because Egyptian banks actually pay relatively decent interest if you hold Egyptian pounds. But if you're willing to tie your money up through the central bank for anywhere from 3 to 5 years, you can become Egyptian. Not something that a lot of Westerners would be interested in, but it is a passport where you just put the money in and walk away. In Asia, very difficult to get second citizenship, as we've talked about before in Asia. However, there are a number of programs. The Philippines has the SRRV program. You can put as little as a couple $1,000 up to $50,000, depending on which program you're qualifying for in a Philippines bank. Interest rates are slightly better than you'd find somewhere else in the world. They do have some decent banks there, so that's certainly an option. If you're 35 years or older, you can consider that. Thailand has an indefinite investor's visa, renewable every year, theoretically in perpetuity, where you put 10 million baht, a little over 300,000 US dollars in the bank. You can also do a combination of that with property. So if you want to buy a condo, for example, from a developer, you can split that, half of it in the bank, half of it for a home if you actually want to live there. But you don't actually have to live there. You just have to go one day every year to renew it. Malaysia has had the My Second Home program. As we sit here, it's been suspended, hopefully returning later in 2020. Their deal was 300,000 Malaysian ringgit in a bank account where you can actually earn interest. Again, interest rate's not so high these days, but a little bit better than US dollars, and potentially the ringgit has been at times a little undervalued. If you're over 50 years old, they cut that in half, so it's a pretty good deal. 36,000 US dollars for someone over 50, double that if you were under 50, no age requirements, no requirement to live in the country. We'll see what they come back with when that program comes back, but again, you've got really nice banks in Malaysia. You've got Singaporean banks. You've got banks from different countries, and I think a pretty stable environment. You put your cash in the bank, you get a residence permit valid for 10 years. So if you have a comment on which of these countries most interests you, leave it below. I'd like to hear what you think about this. If you have liquidity, I've really been advising people lately because I've had more people who like the idea of holding cash. They like having the lifetime emergency fund. They like having cash on hand potentially for cheap investments that come along. What I've said is if you're going to put money in an offshore bank, Sure, you can look at Swiss banks, you can look at Singaporean banks, you can look at Georgian banks or any of the countries that we talk about. But if you have a lot of liquidity and you're not just looking to put it in one bank, and if you have $5 million, $10 million, why not go and move a couple of $100,000, move $1 million, move €1 million to one of these places, pick up a passport along the way, kill two birds with one stone. Something definitely worth considering. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.